So this time, I'm actually going to try and put a bit of effort into my editing. So, oh, it's going to be really funny if I end up not editing that, and it's just okay. So today, you probably saw the title. I want to talk about overthinking, self-awareness, things like that in my experience, and how I view it not so much as a curse like a lot of people do, um, but more a tool to help you grow and get through a lot of difficult stages. So I know some of you might not necessarily agree. You might say, "Hey, well, you know, overthinking. Oh, it's so much. It leads me to down a path of self-criticism and hatred. How can you not understand that?" I do. I do. In fact, for the past few years in high school, it's been pretty tough to not overthink, right? I like in the past I would always criticize myself on every little thing I do. I still do. I'm not going to lie, I still do a lot. It's really tough to be able to go through life and be happy with everything you do. And I don't really think you should. I feel like there are things, in fact, for everything, you should strive to keep being better, keep pushing no matter what, no matter how tired you are or you think you've done enough. You got to keep pushing, keep trying new things because that's the only way that you're going to see consistent growth. And I guess I'm also sort of trying to do that here with this. I know I talk about the reasons why I'm doing this a lot, or I have in the earlier video, the sub video, which was done decently, especially for a first returning video. So thank you so much. I appreciate that. And yeah, I feel like I'm trying to do this because, as I said before, I lacked a bit of a purpose, and I want to try and fill that void that a lack of schoolwork has given me with something I enjoy, like this. And I feel like I'm trying to turn this into a bit of a learning experience for myself. I'm trying to learn how to edit. Woo, woo, editing. That's probably not going to be as elaborate as I imagine it in my brain, but I'm trying to teach myself new things. I'm trying to get better at this because it's really fun, and that I feel like that stimulation is necessary. Anyway, rant over. Let's get back to the topic. Overthinking. Yeah, it's it's really difficult to deal with. Um, Especially for me. A couple of years ago, year 10, year 11, I dealt with it pretty heavily. I would always constantly critique everything I do related to school, outside of school. I was a pretty socially anxious person, and I'd always judge myself whenever I had a conversation that didn't go as well as I really wanted it to. I'd give myself incredibly harsh, I'd say incredibly harsh things to myself. I don't know why I'm saying this in past tense because, if I'm being honest, I still do a lot of the time. I don't do things perfectly. Like this isn't going to be perfect, but and I'm probably going to end up beating myself up over it. But it's sort of the step that comes after that that has really helped me sort of manage it and keep it so it doesn't destroy me as a person as much as it did. So that sort of comes down to self-awareness, right? You're overthinking, which shows that you have the capacity to sort of reflect on your actions and think, hey, I have done this thing that I'm not proud of, and it's definitely going to be a lot meaner than that, especially if you're a pretty anxious person. It's going to be a lot meaner than, oh, I didn't do that great. It's all right though. It's going to be probably more that was terrible. What are you talking about? What are you talking? What are you doing, you idiots? It's probably going to be a hell of a lot more negative. But the to me the mechanism has sort of stayed the same, right? I've sort of learned to accept those thoughts. They're there. They're not going to go away by just saying no, that's not true. That's not true, because no matter how much you tell yourself what you're saying isn't true, you're probably not going to end up believing it. I sort of draw parallels to like debating and all that, where when you're debating someone, you're not really debating to change their mind. You're debating to win, right? So like a lot of people go into debates closed-minded, and it doesn't matter how much evidence is thrown at them, they're still gonna, think the same because, well, it's embarrassing to have, you know, had your mind changed by someone else to admit that you're inferior to them in this particular aspect of whatever you're talking about. And I honestly, I think it's pretty similar. I feel like just telling yourself it's going to be okay, or it wasn't terrible, isn't going to help as much as reflecting on your reflection. Yeah, getting a bit more meta about it, trying to unpack yourself, understand why you're doing it. Like, I don't know, just find real sources for why you're thinking this. Like, oh, am I thinking this because, I'm a really anxious person and I struggle to have these interactions and I'm really scared of how people react to that. Something like that. Finding a source and sort of trying to pull yourself out of the situation and the feelings and sort of analyze your thoughts creates this really deep, really rich awareness of who you are. And I've tried to do that. I don't do it well. I'm not perfect. I It's just something that I've sort of noticed and I've tried to be aware, and honestly, I don't think it's something that's talked about super much, so I just wanted to give my pseudo intellectual take on it. That overthinking isn't necessarily a bad thing because it helps you sort of critically analyze yourself when you're critically analyzing yourself. It's this really meta thing, and then eventually you can just keep layering it on top of layering it on top of layering it, and blah 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 blah, and eventually you're starting to you're starting to analyze your own existence, and it gets really philosophical, and I feel like there's something really beautiful about that. I think the fact that you can be so like consciousness can be so complex that you're able to analyze thoughts that are analyzing thoughts of you analyzing your actions. It's so crazy to think how self-aware something can be. And especially if you're able to start doing this, start becoming more, emotionally aware of yourself, it helps you, discover new things like your values. I've started to figure out a lot more of what I stand for, what I think I should, because being able to critically analyze yourself, not just, in a negative way, but being able to analyze your analysis creates this deep layer of self-reflection that allows you to sort of look into the other aspects of your life a lot deeper. And honestly, that's where I've discovered a lot of, my interest in philosophy, politics, like really deep, intricate topics where you get to consider everything in like a huge picture. And I feel like if you are able to manage this connection with yourself, something really beautiful can come out of that. So if you're, struggling with overthinking, I'm not going to guarantee that it's going to get better because I still have horrible days where I'm, overthinking to my core. I just feel really shit. But having that self-awareness allows you to be a lot more honest with yourself. A lot more, I get not really critical, or maybe constructively critical. I like that. Constructively critical of both your actions and your thoughts relating to those actions. Because I think we all know that overthinking is definitely unwarranted a lot of the time. A lot of the time. So, if you're overanalyzing a social interaction you had, you're probably analyzing it just a bit too much because, it was this one-time thing. But overthinking, yeah, it's definitely unwarranted. A lot of the time, you probably don't need to be as hard on yourself as you really think, but it happens anyways. I'm not going to be able to stop you by making this video and healing all of your trauma that fixes your overthinking, and suddenly I'm back to normal because this one guy with like 30 subscribers said, "Hey, stop being sad. Stop overthinking." But yeah, no, I feel like being able to practice self-awareness of your self-awareness makes it helps. It helps discover who you are. It creates a deeper sort of mental connection to yourself, not just emotional. Um, and it allows you to be more objective in, you know, emotional scenarios, right? And it doesn't take your humanity away either. It's just another layer where, if something's gone wrong, you can analyze that, you can feel bad, but then you can think about that. You can think about the bad feelings. And then you can sort of be aware that these feelings that I'm feeling, they're negative. They're self-hate, self-doubt, but they're not entirely warranted. They're not very appropriate for the situation. So I think that creates some really special kind of connection where you're allowed to have these negative thoughts. You're allowed to have self-doubt, self-hate, all of that. But at the same time, there's this part of you that knows that it's not completely true. And you're going to be okay. And I think that's really beautiful. Now, that's just my 2 cents for today. I've been uploading pretty consistently because I've had so much time on my hands, and it's really strange. But yeah, if you made it this far, I hope you've taken something from my arguably quite brain dead takes. I'm really open for some discussion in the comments if you guys would like to talk about this or if you disagree or whatever. But thank you for watching. Yeah, I appreciate you all. Bye.